this afternoon. But right now we'll continue to focus on the division round playoff games from this weekend. And let's just kind of walk through those, I guess, in the order in which should we go reverse order?
Yeah, let's start with the Cowboys.
Okay.
Got to.
So if we're starting with the Cowboys, I think the conversation starts with Dak Prescott. Obviously, this is a really good San Francisco team. It's a San Francisco team that is capable of winning the Super Bowl. They've got to get by Philadelphia. They got to do that on the road. They're going to be a 2.5-point underdog, or at least that's where the line stands right now going into that game on Sunday. It's the early game on Sunday. But before we look ahead to that game, we got to look back at the one that just happened. Cowboys going on the road. First of all, I mentioned this out of the gate. Spectacular uniform matchup. I mean, could it have been any better? You had the blue skies over Santa Clara, packed house, everybody in the stadium in red, other than the Cowboys fans that were sprinkled in. Cowboys in their traditional whites with the silver pants, Niners in their traditional reds with the gold pants, the gold lids, the silver lids. I mean, I don't know that it's possible to have a better uniform game than you had there yesterday. I know that means absolutely nothing, but it was as aesthetically pleasing as it could possibly be to watch that game. Now, there's a different aesthetic that if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan that was less pleasing, and that was your football team. 19-12 was the final. Dak goes 23 of 37 for 206 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. He was sacked 1 time. He carried the ball 4 times for 22 yards. He was not good yesterday. The first interception, he's throwing it to the boundary, I guess to his left. He's late, and it was a pretty easy interception for the corner that jumped the route. It was not a good decision. And then the second interception wasn't a very good one either. And oh, by the way, what was the third? It was 3rd and 10 with like 2 seconds left when they lined up in the crazy formation with Zeke Elliott snapping the ball as the only offensive lineman, and he just got plowed. And the play they run down 7 with time expiring is throw like an 8-yard out. But what other option did Dak have with the defender in his face there, I guess? What do you do with this if you're Jerry Jones, if you're Mike McCarthy, if you're the Cowboys?
Nothing you can do. It's a $90 million cap hit next year, so you can't move him. I've been thinking about this, though. So, I mean, if we're being totally honest, Dak stunk last night. It was bad. He was bad. Objectively bad. And doesn't win enough of the game, right? But the Dallas Cowboys have not been to the NFC Championship since I was my son's age. I was 3 years old the last time the Cowboys went to the NFC Championship game. There are a lot of quarterbacks not named Dak Prescott that have taken snaps for the Cowboys in the seasons that did not end with the NFC Championship. They also brought in a Super Bowl winning head coach, and they still have no success whatsoever. I wonder if people are spending all day today talking about quarterback, and it's valid, talking about McCarthy, and it's valid, but not talking about the person at the top that's been running the show the entire time. At what point do you start blaming the owner/GM for their lack of postseason success for 3 decades and not just blame it on the quarterback? Because was it Romo's fault too? Was it Jason Garrett's fault too? Was it Drew Bledsoe's fault too? Was it Aikman's fault too at the end of his time in Dallas? I mean, there's one constant in all of the Cowboys' failures, and it's not coach or quarterback.
But there's nothing you can do about the owner who wants to be the GM.
True.
Yeah. And there's no doubt that there are plenty of Cowboys fans that do not think that Jerry Jones has done a great job constructing that roster over the last quarter of a century. What, 27 years since they last won a Super Bowl?
Yeah. I mean, look at the team. Who do they have? Now, CeeDee Lamb is a good player.
He is.
And Tony Pollard's a pretty good player, but he got hurt early in this one. And then who else do they have? No one. There's nobody
Schultz,
on that team
the tight
that
end,
say,
is good. But he's not Travis Kelce.
Right. So, you have that, and then you ask what you can do. I'm sorry. You just got to be smarter. Fire Mike McCarthy and tell Sean Payton you'll pay him whatever he wants. That is just the easiest solution in the world. He would go, he would take that job, he'd want to be a Cowboy, and there's no way you can convince me Dak doesn't get better under Sean Payton's tutelage.
Let me ask you this, though. As good as Sean Payton was as the head coach of the Saints, the working relationship that he had with Mickey Loomis in terms of building that roster the way they believed it needed to be built together, he would not have that in Dallas.
He's going to need some control.
Well,
even
if he's promised some control,
with the leverage.
Is he going to be given it?
He's the one with the leverage. He can say, I need this or I'm not coming, and it becomes pretty, it's on Jerry Jones at that point.
Is the problem Mike McCarthy, though? I mean, do they become appreciably better if Sean Payton is the head coach as opposed to Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy is an average head coach, in my opinion. He's just an average head coach. You can do better than him.
How many Super Bowls has he won?
It's one, right?
Yeah. How many Super Bowls has Sean Payton won?
One. One with the Saints versus the Packers.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference in those franchises.
Yeah.
I mean, what were the Saints before Sean Payton arrived? The worst franchise in the league, year in, year out.
They were bad for a long time.
Yeah. Trust me, I know.
Mike in Gulfport says if the Saints won't get Sean Payton back, Dallas is where he would land. Jones can pay. How many Super Bowls did he win, and why did he leave Green Bay?
Well, okay. You got to fire McCarthy first, but, I mean, he's about to do his second interview with Denver, so if you're Jerry and that's what you want, you got to hurry. Because second interviews, I mean, everybody out there has been through the hiring process at some point. Sometimes you get hired after one interview, but when you're working and trying to work for, let's say, a bigger company, they interview you multiple times. And the second interview is usually a pretty good sign of, okay, we're about to hire you. And Denver has already talked with the Saints about what it would take in terms of draft capital. They've already talked with Sean Payton about what it would take in salary, and they're about to interview him again. What do you think that means? Well, they're about to hire him as their next head coach.
Broncos don't have a first-round pick this year. They may not get him.
I think they do. They got it in a trade with somebody else. They've got one. They do.
If you say so. I say that their first-round pick goes to the Seahawks.
As part of the Russell Wilson deal?
Yeah. I mean, unless this article is wrong.
Cody says a coach change isn't going to help Dallas. So they've got
it's not good enough.
So the Broncos have got the 49ers first-round pick. Okay.
That's not good enough. 29th isn't good enough.
Well, then maybe they're having to go this year's first-round pick and maybe one next year as well.
Yeah, first and a third, and maybe another first, but they're far down that road, and so Jerry better hustle. But he's made no indications that he will. But I mean, I listened to a lot of radio tonight, and everybody was ripping on Dak, and he deserves it. You're a $160 million quarterback. You throw 2 picks in a playoff game. Your offense can't move the football. You have 1 touchdown drive, 2 field goal drives where you had a short field. One, you had a turnover like on San Francisco's 20, and it ends in a field goal. But nobody today talked about Jerry. And I kept thinking about how long it's been that the Cowboys have been like this. And remember, it was all Romo's fault. Romo's mediocre. Romo sucks. Dak sucks. Jason Garrett sucks. All these people suck. There's one constant in Dallas, and nobody today talked about that one constant.
Is it because it's a worthless conversation? Like, it may be true, but the idea that, he needs to – I mean, Cody said a coaching change isn't going to help. They need an ownership change. That's not happening. That part of it's not happening, so it's almost like it's a waste of oxygen to talk about it. But maybe that's what needs to happen. I mean, they won 3 with him as the boss just a long time ago.